Alright, so here we're going to talk about factoring special products. So the first one that we're going to talk about is perfect square trinomials. So in this case we have two things. We have a plus b squared and then a minus b squared. And these are what you could call shortcut versions. Okay, so we're going to say here shortcut. So let's go ahead and factor the first one, and we're just going to use the old method first. So remember, this is a, b, and c, and it's in order because it's m squared m and then the constant. So 1 times 25 goes up here, and then 10 goes at the bottom. Alright, then you want to think of two numbers that multiply out to 25 and add up to 10. So that's 5 and 5. So we're going to write the template. So notice in this case I'm using m and not the variable x. And then plus 5, and that would be our answer. Okay, so that's the first method. And then the shortcut method, I'll write it over here, which it's kind of like a shortcut, but at the same time you do have to memorize this. So the first thing that you have to do is I'm going to rewrite this out, and I'm going to write the positive one up here. So a squared plus 2ab plus b squared. So the first thing that you have to do is you have to recognize that this is a squared and this is a squared, because this could be written as 5 squared. Okay, so your a is m and then your b is 5. So if you do 2ab, so 2 times a times b, and multiply those all out, you get 10m, which is that middle part. So in other words, this formula works, and you could rewrite it. So since you know your a is m plus 5 squared, and so that would be the shortcut. Now, for now, it's probably easier to do this, right? But the more you go into math, you're going to recognize these shortcuts, and you might be able to use those shortcuts. Alright, the next one is the difference of squares. So you have a squared minus b squared, and that's going to be a plus b, a minus b. Now, for this one, this form is really recognizable because it's something squared minus something else squared, because it's x squared minus 3 squared. So you could really see that a is equal to x and b is equal to 3, and then you're just going to go ahead and plug it into that formula there. So x plus 3, x minus 3, and then you're done there. Okay, so now let's try the next one. See, that's something squared minus something squared, because our perfect squares are 1, 4, 9, 16, 25, 36. Then we have 49, 64, 81, and 100. I might have missed some, but 16 is a perfect square. That's 4 squared. So this would be, your a would be 4y, and then your b would be 3. So 4y plus 3, and then 4y minus 3. That would be your answer. Okay, and then this last one, notice that 50 and 8, they do have something in common. So you could take out a 2, and you're left with 25 minus 4y squared. And then inside the parentheses, you are left with perfect squares. So you could rewrite this as, you leave the 2 on the outside, 5 minus 2y, and 5 plus 2y. That would be your answer there. Alright, and then the last one is your sum or difference of cubes. And for now, again, the more you go into math, you're going to have to really memorize these formulas. And there's something called SOAP, which means same, opposite, always, positive. So here you have a positive sign here for the first example that we're doing. So it's x to the third plus 8. And notice those parentheses here, right? So same sign, and then so x and 2, because a is equal to x and b is equal to 2. And then you're going to have x squared, and then opposite, so the opposite of a positive is a negative, and then you're going to have AB, so that's 2x, and then always positive, so that last sign is always positive. And then you'll have 4 here. So that would be your factored form. And the last thing that you want to do is you just want to make sure if this is factorable, and it is not. So you want to try to do your x method. So 4 and negative 2. So there are not two numbers that multiply out to 4 and add up to negative 2. So it's not so this part right here is not factorable. Okay, and so just as far as a recap, so the sum and difference formulas you are going to want to, for this class, you won't need to memorize those. I'll go ahead and give those to you on your quiz. But going into other classes, you are going to have to memorize those. The difference of squares, I could assure you that that's one of the ones that you really need to know off the top of your head. You need to be able to recognize that format and factor that. And then again, the first one, you are going to be able to recognize that more and more as you go into your other classes.